Today, we're digging into a really fascinating and, yeah, slightly unnerving study that peels back the layers on a hidden danger in Europe. We're looking at 23 years of data, and it reveals a pretty shocking number of fatal encounters with some of the smallest creatures out there.
So let's just start with this number, 1,691. It's big, it's specific, and you've got to be wondering, what on earth does it represent?
Well, there it is. That's the number of people who died from Hornet, Wasp, and Bee Stings across Europe in just 23 years. It's a staggering figure, especially for a cause of death you almost never hear about. So, let's break down what this data tells us about this hidden threat.
All right, so first things first. To really get a handle on this, we need to understand who is most at risk. This first part of our breakdown is all about profiling the victims behind these numbers.
The data actually gives us a surprisingly clear picture here. It turns out the risk is not spread out evenly at all, and the patterns that emerge, well, they tell us a lot about who is most exposed and vulnerable.
The very first thing that just jumps out of the data is this huge gender divide. Men make up a whopping 78% of all fatalities. I mean, that's nearly 4 out of every 5 deaths. And the likely reason? The researchers suggest it's probably tied to things like occupational roles and outdoor hobbies, meaning men, on average, just have more exposure to these stinging insects.
And it's not just gender. Age is another critical piece of the puzzle. You can see that adults and seniors are overwhelmingly the victims. Together, they account for more than 97% of all deaths. The good news, thankfully, is that fatal stings in kids and young adults are incredibly rare.
Okay, so now we have a clearer picture of who is most affected. But that leads to the next big question. Where are these fatal encounters actually happening? And trust me, the answer is probably not what you're thinking.
Right? Are we talking about people deep in the woods or out working on farms? Let's see what the data actually says.
This is one of the most surprising things in the entire study. Almost 30% of fatal stings happen at home. At home! But what's even more concerning is that for a massive 44% of cases, the location is just listed as unspecified. We simply don't know where it happened.
And as the researchers themselves point out, this is a huge problem. This massive gap in the data makes prevention incredibly difficult. I mean, think about it. How can you develop effective safety measures if you don't even know where the highest risk areas are?
So, we've looked at the who and the where on a case-by-case basis. Now let's zoom out and map the risk across the entire continent.
The risk is definitely not the same everywhere. It changes dramatically from country to country. Just look at the difference here. Places like Estonia, Austria, and Slovenia have the highest mortality rates. But then you look at Ireland, the UK, and the Netherlands, and the risk is about 10 times lower. It really shows you how localized this threat can be.
And check out this number, 2.24. That was the highest single-year mortality rate recorded in the entire study. It was in Estonia. It's just a stark reminder that in certain places, at certain times, the risk can spike and become incredibly high.
All right, for our final section, let's connect all these dots and look at the bigger picture. Because this isn't just a story about statistics, it's really a story about our changing environment. See, this threat isn't just standing still, it's evolving. The study makes it very clear that invasive, non-native species of hornets and wasps are spreading across Europe. And as they spread, they're completely redrawing the map of risk and increasing the odds of human-insect encounters. And here they are. On the left, you've got the Oriental hornet, and on the right, the now infamous Asian hornet. These are just 2 of the species that are setting up shop in new parts of the continent, and in the process, they're changing local ecosystems and, of course, how often they come into contact with us. And all of this leads to a really important concept that the study highlights: One Health. It's this idea that you just can't separate the health of people from the health of animals in our shared environment. They're all linked. The spread of these hornets is a perfect example. It's an ecological shift with direct and sometimes fatal consequences for us. So that leaves us with this final thought. We've got new invasive species on the move. We have this huge data gap where nearly half of all fatal stings happen in completely unknown places. And we have a risk that, let's be honest, most people and maybe even our public health systems just aren't really thinking about. So the real question is, are we actually prepared for a danger that, for so many, is hiding in plain sight?